now the latest around the wide world of tropics. Tropical Weather Bulletin for October 21st. Well, I hope you've gotten used to this screen at this point, considering the fact that we are here with the no tropical cyclones active text for the 4th day in a row here. Nothing really has formed or will be forming for a few more days here. So that brings us still at 81 storms so far this worldwide season as we enter to day 294 of 2021. It's day 143 of Atlantic hurricane season and has continued to remain oddly quiet in the Atlantic, with still no named storm formations this month and nothing ever since Sam died in the beginning of the month. Still on pace to become one of the most inactive Octobers that we have seen. In the Eastern Pacific, it's day 159 of the season. We had the area of interest, now with an 80% chance of formation as it continues towards the west-northwest, could parallel the coast of Mexico in the coming days, and it is likely it becomes a named storm some point this weekend or early next week. In the Western Pacific, we have Invest 98W, which is probably not going to be developing in the slightest for another 3 to 5 days here. So at the moment, we do have a 30% chance on that. Pretty good ensemble support, but when it comes to the parent support, it's a little lacking in that department. In the North Indian Ocean, here's what's going on here. Nothing really to speak of at the moment here, and nothing expected in the next 5 days as to be expected, considering the fact that we don't usually see much going on in this basin in particular. It's always a worry if there is something, because of course we always see those landfalls. In terms of the track forecast, we have nothing with high chances of formation in the next 48 hours specifically, so we are unable to provide a reliable track forecast at this time. But regardless, it is likely that we will be seeing those chances go up for that Eastern Pacific area of interest. So once we get to that point, we will give a forecast by then. So keep staying tuned, and we will of course keep you covered on that specific area of interest. Here is the satellite imagery in the Atlantic. It is continuing to remain the way it is, especially considering the fact that there is not really much going on besides some of those disturbances that you see, but really nothing that's going to be trying to develop into a tropical cyclone. In the Eastern Pacific, it looks like this. Not much going on either, but you can see the area of interest that we're going to be starting to watch coming in from the right there. Other than that, not really much of anything besides a few satellite glitches. Going into the Western Pacific, you can really not see 98W. 98W really has no defined organization in the slightest, and not really anything that would give you an idea that it is an invest. That blob that you see there near the Mariana Islands, that is not 98W, so of course we really can't talk about 98W's progress, as it's literally show no progress. It's one of those cases where the invest tag was designated very early. In the North Indian Ocean, you can see what's going on over here, and it's looking pretty dry compared to what we've normally been seeing. The Bay of Bengal looking rather dry compared to normal. The Arabian Sea is always dry, so it's really no surprise that it is the same case again. Given the fact that 98W looks like complete garbage at the moment, and the fact that we really have no other storms to focus on that are invest, that brings us to the Queen Elizabeth Islands, which is basically so garbage to the point that they can't even get satellites working functionally without there being about 8 of them, neither of which really covers the job well. In the Eastern Pacific, you can see what's going on over here, and pretty much the same as what we've been seeing. Sea surface temperatures around 27 to 29 degrees Celsius. Those 29 degrees Celsius temperatures are more confined closer to the coast. In the Gulf of Mexico and Caribbean, still around 27 to 29 degrees Celsius here, and in the main development region, those temperatures are slowly cooling, still around 27 to 28 degrees Celsius here. And as you head up the Gulf Stream, those Gulf Stream waters are still around 27 to 28 degrees Celsius. This is the tropics, of course, looking a bit cooler. In the Bay of Bengal, it's around 28 to 29 degrees Celsius for the majority of the basin, and in the Arabian Sea, it's around 27 to around 29 degrees Celsius. In the Western Pacific, it's the same story here. It's around 28 to 29 degrees Celsius throughout much of the basin, except for areas near the Hainan Peninsula, where it's around 27. Same case for areas south of Japan, just a tad bit. And the southern hemisphere is still looking a little bit cool for the moment here. Going into the sea surface temperature anomalies, the La Nina is definitely in full swing at this point. The Atlantic is still looking above average in terms of its sea surface temperature. Same thing with the eastern portion of the eastern Pacific. Central Pacific is looking below average. Western Pacific is still doing above average in terms of its temperatures, and the same can be said for the North Indian Ocean. They're looking slightly above average. On this day in 2020, we saw what happens when Christian gets angry with Siri, but in retrospective aspects here, what we had was Hurricane Epsilon, which would begin peaking as a Category 3, a very reverse tropics hurricane that we saw in October. There was also Tropical Storm Saldel, which was in the middle of the South China Sea, performing a little bit of an erratic track before going westwards once more. Of course, you can find more of our On This Day products, followed by Cyclone History and Christian's amazing blooper about Epsilon in our 2020 blooper reel on our Extra channel. That brings us over to the next names in the Atlantic. The next two names are still Wanda, followed by Adria. In the Eastern Pacific, we're looking out for Rick and Sandra. And in the Central Pacific, while Goosebumps may be giving people goosebumps, we will definitely have goosebumps if any kind of chance is good enough for us seeing Hone. In the Western Pacific, the next two names here are Malo, followed by Niato. And in the North Indian Ocean, the next two names here are Jawad, followed by Asani. Looking over into the Southern Hemisphere, the next two names in the Southwestern Indian Ocean at this point are now Anna, followed by Batsire. In the Australian region, we're looking out for Patty and Ruby. And in the South Pacific, the next name is Cody. We'll be back for tropical weather bulletins tomorrow night on a more serious note as we watch these two disturbances progress.